Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and this is a quick video on accessing function return values. Because typically when people create a function like this, let's say I create a function, const my func equals whatever, and all this function does is, let's say, return an object. So it returns an object with my name, Alex Merced, age 34. So I return this object. So what most people would probably do is they would first store the object, my obj, and they'll say, hey, my object equals the value from my func. So my func returns the object, it gets stored in my object, and then they would console log my obj dot name. And this is fine. This is a fine way of doing it. But you don't have to do the extra line. Like, let's say I don't need my object other than accessing the name once. And especially since this is going to return the same object every time, I don't necessarily have to do that. So I could pop out this line, not have to create a new variable, and just do this. My func. So my func returns an object. So technically, I can chain off the object that's returned. So I can just be like my func.name. Because what that does, it chains off the object that my func might return. So it's literally my func, like that, is literally the same thing as this being there. And I can chain off of that to access that name property. Okay, so see, it does the same thing. So that's the point of this video, in the sense that if you know that a function returns something in particular, you don't have to create these extra steps. You can chain off it to access its return values. So let's try other types of return values. So let's say it returns an array. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I want to console log that 4. Well, that 4 is in the third index, or index 3, 0, because it's 0, 1, 2, 3. So just like a normal array, I can just treat my func like a normal array and be like 3. And that'll, basically this function will run. It returns the array, so you can almost imagine that this gets replaced with this. And then I access the third index. 4. Cool. Okay, you could return a function. Okay, so I could return a function. Just return a function that returns the number 5. So that function returns the number 5. And basically what happens is I just do this. So this calls the function. The function then returns this function, and then I invoke that function. Okay? I don't necessarily have to go save my function in a separate variable, then go call that function. I can just do that. Okay, and this will work. And this will give me 5. Okay, see, there's 5. Okay, let's see here. Let's think of any other fun data structures. Those are sort of the main things. Again, objects, arrays, functions. I mean, you could also return a class, but that doesn't, you'd have to go then invoke the class. That one you do have to go store another variable because it needs a constructor name of some sort. Let me think here. I mean, that's, and then again, that function, just to have some fun with it. I mean, this function could then return another function and have that return 5. And then again, I just put another parenthesis. So this function invokes this function, which then returns this function, which gets invoked by this parentheses, which then returns this function, which then gets invoked by this parentheses, and that function returns 5. Okay, and that can get pretty complicated pretty quick if you really want to have fun with it. But the point is just so that you're aware, if you understand what a function returns, you can directly access that piece of data right away without having to go store it in another variable. That is the point. Aside from that, same thing. If I have a function that returns true or false, okay, I don't have to go save the true in a variable to go use it as a something in my if statement. I can just do if my func and let that return true or false for me. Okay. basically you have to treat your function as its return value, because that's literally what it is. The function's going to resolve, and the rest of your code doesn't run until the function resolves. So at the end of the day, the way JavaScript looks at your code is that when it runs console log, this has already resolved. So this becomes whatever the function returns, or whatever that expression resolves as, by the time it actually runs it. So you almost have to kind of like translate things in your head when I sit there and say, okay, well, this really is the end result, and then kind of like Mad Libs, switch it out in your head, so that way you can kind of see what your code is actually doing. Yeah, so that's cool. Think that gets the point across. So my name is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com. Have a great day and enjoy.